Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I am so excited to be back with all of you for another episode. And in this episode, we get to do a Zoom interview with Mr. Otto Aday. Welcome, Otto.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so lovely to be on here with you. So yeah, thank you so much.
It is lovely that you have joined us. It is evening there in Wales, correct?
Yeah, it's around about 7 at night right now, like in the evening. It's not really night yet.
Yeah, excellent. So don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us. That helps the bands and artists that we feature, just like Otto. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. So, Otto, we got to meet at South by Southwest, which is about a month ago, which is just crazy to me, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gone by way too quick. Where's the year going? I don't know.
So it was your first time not only to South by, but your first time to America. Talk about that experience for those. You were there, what, 4 days, 5 days?
Yeah. So I was there for about a week. About 4 or 5 days. Quite a short trip. It was good. It was the first time I've ever played America officially, which is awesome. I did play like a very small guitar pull when I came to Nashville to record the album. But other than that, like that was my first ever showcase, and I was incredibly lucky. And I managed to. It was so expensive to try and get out there, being from the UK. But it was, I got really lucky. Hired some incredible session players to play the showcase.
Yeah, so
Oh
we
yeah,
got to
they were
see.
from I was going to say they're from Austin. They weren't from the UK, so I couldn't fly my own guys out. I ended up hiring, especially like Salvatore, who was the guitarist that I hired. One of the most phenomenal guitarists that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. Absolutely incredible. When we went into rehearsal, we only had one rehearsal and then the South by Southwest showcase, and it was like the night before, and he came in and he just smashed every song. Like I've worked with some pretty big hitters in the industry as far as session players, and he is just like up there with them. And he's so like young as well, which is crazy. He's crazy talented. But anyway, that's a complete tangent about Salvatore. But yeah, phenomenal guy, and I will be working with him again when I get a chance. Definitely.
So talk about the city itself. Your best meal, maybe like a story you remember.
Yeah,
What
I mean, I ended up,
inspired
I like, yeah, I walked all the way to this like vegan courtyard. One of the drivers that I was talking to as they were dropping me off to some place, they were like, I was like, oh, are there any good places to eat, in Austin while being vegetarian? I'm vegetarian. And this person said that there's like this little sort of courtyard that you can go to, and I ended up walking about half an hour in the blistering heat, got blisters on my feet and stuff. But it was so worth it. It was so worth it that I think I had like a pulled, like fake pulled pork, like taco wrap thing. I was so good. So yeah, I did that. The people, I think like it's quite weird because like the people are the thing that stick in my mind. And whenever I've been to the States, just everyone's like really, really friendly. I don't know if it's because I'm foreign or something, but like definitely, so many smiles, so many, welcoming people, and just like always up for having a chat, which, I love, especially as a storyteller. It means that, if people are willing to openly talk to me, it's amazing. I love it. So yeah, definitely the people are the thing that sort of stick out to me in Austin.
Yeah. What kind of connections did you make industry-wise when you were down there, if any?
Oh, I made quite a few. So there's a small record. They're not that small actually. They're quite a sizable record label out of Toronto called Six Shooter Records. So there's a conversation happening with them now, which is quite cool. And then yeah, there's like different distribution companies. Yeah, I like met some people from the Orchard, which is a pretty huge distribution company. Yes, there was so many. I mean, like every day that I was there at the festival, I went out and was at every mingling event that I could get into and stuff like that. I mean, you have to do it when you travel all that way. And yeah, I met so many great people. One person is Robert Stark. He's like owner of Fabulous Films, which is like a really cool sync company based out of LA. So I met him. He was at the Focus World Showcase where I met you, and obviously I met you at South by Southwest. But yeah, met quite a lot of really cool people, really interesting people, and also other artists as well. Like that was one of the coolest things is like they had like a little artist to like hangout area and yeah, chilling out, talking to people that are gig the sort of Austin scene regularly and getting their insight into the city and stuff was cool as well.
Yeah, it's cool because when you mentioned Robert's name, he's the manager for the Silver Lines, which I interviewed yesterday.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, cool. That's wicked. Yeah, he's mentioned Silverlands because he said that that was the reason why he came to my showcase was they filled in for someone. And yeah, like yeah, he's great. Really great guy. I really get on well with him. So yeah, hopefully that'll sort of blossom into whatever it's meant to blossom into. But yeah, it's been really cool sort of getting to meet all these new people in the industry.
Yeah. Was there any show or like concert that you saw that really kind of blew you away that you were a fan of or that you got to be in the
Oh.
audience for?
Yeah, there was a few. One of them that really like stuck out to me as just incredible live band was Low Moon, which is Dave's son. Dave's son's the guitarist. Dave Stewart's son is the guitarist, and I managed to catch him and meet him after the show and stuff. And that yeah, their band is just really good. Like they sound incredible live. If you get a chance to see them, definitely do. And yeah, like them are definitely I really like them. Thing is, there was so many throughout the whole showcase that I went to go see. All of the names sort of start to blur together into one. But yeah, that like that those they were the most standout band to me. Minus obviously some of the people that came from Wales, from where I'm from. Like Minas had an insane set, and yeah, there's been Alicia Scott as well. She was phenomenal. So there was a couple other people. I saw Victoria Canal. She was amazing, incredible artist. And then I saw ex ambassadors as well. Yeah, there was like loads of people, but yeah, all of them were really good in their own right. But yeah, Victoria Canal blew her set away. Amazing voice, absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad that I got to see her because she's from London or London slash US, I think. But yeah, amazing, incredible.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone that's never been there, this was my sixth time going. It's just, it is. There's no music festival like it in the world. Like, where else can a band play 15 shows in 7 days? It's crazy. It's absolutely
Yeah,
crazy.
it's
So,
nuts.
yeah. So I'm glad you talked about Dave because that's a good segue. Let's talk about how you got to meet just at just starting out basically, really, like you hadn't really been an artist for too long before you met Mr. Dave Stewart. How did that all happen?
Yeah, so it unfolded in a really natural way, which I think like all of the pathways that you take in life that lead to great moments do. Like I think that's I wasn't chasing anything. I don't think at that point he was either really. Um, it sort of happened. I released the Post EP, which was like a concept piece around the house that I'm in, which is an old post office. And I sent out letters to my neighbors, and with their responses wrote the songs and stuff like that. But I ended up meeting Dave about a year after I released that. I was playing loads of shows in London. I was playing loads of shows basically anywhere I could, but London's quite an important music hub here in the UK. And through that, I met Russell Sheffield, who owned this app called Tracked, and yeah, like they'd been hiring different artists to play a couple of shows for them, and one of the shows was like a Cedars night, and got on really well with the team there and stuff like that. And I didn't really think much of it. It was just a gig, and then when when COVID happened in the lockdown, they like the app that this guy Russell owns called Tracked did a competition, and then through that competition, I ended up meeting Dave. But the competition basically was take Dave's guitar part and write a song around it. So I completely, you know, like sacrilegious, kind of threw his guitar part kind of in the bin, and I grabbed the drums that he put. I basically chopped up the whole song. Yeah, I chopped up the whole song and wrote an entirely different song with new chords. Like, I kept those same chords as the first two opening chords, and then I wrote, I wanted more harmony there, so I like wrote two more chords around it, and then wrote an entire bridge and a chorus and stuff, and then that ended up becoming "Tell Me Something." So that was the song that got me signed, but that original drum beat in the chorus is the beat that was sent through by Dave, and he did have like a wicked guitar solo for the stem that he sent across for the competition, but I ended up accidentally, not really accidentally, I just it didn't fit the vibe of the song itself. And I like, as soon as Dave heard it, he was like, I want to work with him, I want to sign him. And like then me and him worked together over emails basically, and a couple of Zoom phone call conversations and stuff, to sort of piece that song together. And one thing that Dave does really well that I think any brilliant producer does is like they give the song space. So even though he did have this amazing guitar solo, it was like it doesn't add anything to the song, so it didn't end up making it into the final cut of the song. But yeah, that's sort of how I ended up meeting him. I think it was like thousands. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I think it was about like thousands of artists, like tens of thousands of artists entered the competition, and I was lucky enough to end up getting that deal, which was cool.
Yeah, it's when I listen to your entire catalog of music, it is amazing to me that out of the the album persona that he helped you, create, all of the songs just make you feel so happy. Like, it's just you just feel good about, like, life in general after I listen to each one of those songs. Like, I know that obviously that's not something that you, like, go into the studio and think about, but, like, was there some sort of, like, in the back of your mind or subconscious where you wanted to make a record like that?
No, I don't think so. I think, or at least the way that I look at it is each the art that an artist creates is a a personification of their own personality, and I feel like I'm quite positive. I mean, I'm very, everyone that knows me personally says that I'm really positive, and I am, and I smile a lot, and I keep upbeat, and I'm quite happy. Even like, obviously, there's certain things that happen through life that are worth grieving and taking the time out to give sort of sad emotions to and stuff like that. But I think naturally, I always try and look at the silver linings on the clouds, and I always try to like look at the cups as being half full. And I think just because that's my natural way of being, I think that infuses the music with that sort of light. They're saying that, like I write sad songs. Like I have a couple that would jerk a couple tears. But like I feel like when it comes to releasing music, especially if it's a single, I always try and like think, what would I want to listen to if I was like having a bad day? I'd want to listen to something that's going to lift me up and make me feel better. So I try to sort of have that with my music if it's a single at least, and keep all the sad stuff for filler songs, I suppose. But it's great because like each song to me means something unique, and they're usually written around situations that I've actually experienced in my life. So yeah.
So let's talk about kind of the song that puts you on the map, Star-Crossed Lovers. When I listen to that song, I feel like if Elton John and Meatloaf listened to that song, they would appreciate it very, very much so. When I say that to you, what does that mean to you?
I mean, that means that's cool. It's definitely a nice compliment. I see it as well a little bit, like I get that the verses sound quite Elton Johnny, like I feel that. And yeah, I think, walking into the writing of that song again, it unfolded naturally, which I think all good things do. And when I wrote it came from two separate places. Um, there was like writing the chords, which came out of a really horrible situation, and then writing the lyrics, which came out of a really positive situation. And the negative situation with me writing the chords was basically I was in Nashville. Hadn't that song hadn't been made yet, and I landed in Nashville. And I think like the third night or fourth night of me being there, I went on a night out with Kaya, Dave's daughter, who I also saw live with Kiss Bang. Their band was amazing at South by. And yeah, so I ended up going on this night out with her because I was, so jet lagged and not used to traveling to America, because that was my first ever trip to America. Yeah, so I ended up going on this crazy night out, and by the end of it, me and her ended up witnessing a gang shootout, and someone got murdered, basically, which is obviously, quite traumatizing and like, whoa, first time in America, that's crazy. So like we ended up staying. I went back to Dave's house, and I slept in the guest room that he has there. And I woke up in the morning and I sat down at the piano and bang, the Star-Crossed Lovers chords basically flew out of me. And then at that time we were we were just about to start heading into the studio. So when me and Dave wrote that one, we sort of sat down at his home studio before we headed into Addiction Studios in Nashville, where we recorded the bulk of the album. And yeah, we were sat in Dave's studio, and he said, what would you want to really talk about? And Dave's great at this, and I think a lot of great songwriters do this as well. It's therapy. Like what do you want to say? Like what are you feeling at the moment? How are you feeling? And at that time, he I think he turned to me and he said, like, have you ever been on any crazy escapades? And I was like, I've been on a couple escapades in my time. And this is back in like 2020. So this is like 4 years ago, or like 2021. So maybe like 3 years ago that I was out in Nashville, doing the album. And yeah, I ended up like explaining the story about meeting Robert Downey Jr.'s screenwriter in LA. Like she was from LA, but I met her in New York in a hostel while I was dressed as Charlie Chaplin. So I explained the whole story, and he was like, "This is incredible. It's definitely a song." And then from there, basically, the song again sort of happened naturally. Like all of those lyrics. Like every single lyric in that song is me doing exactly what I did with Dave. I just sat down and I said to Dave, like, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And that's what I do in the lyrics. I just sit there and I go, we were at a bookstore by the stream. We were da-da-da. And it's just like every single thing that happened to me. In that sense, it's quite a literal song. But then I think the chorus really lifts it into that space where it's like, it's a space of its own and it's not so literal. It's very whimsical and larger than life, which I really love. So yeah, that was the writing of Star-Crossed Lovers.
It's very cinematic.
Yeah.
And I feel like, where did the kind of vocal freak out kind of at the bridge come from? Was that Dave's idea? Was that your idea?
That's a funny one. You mentioned that. First time listening to the song back when I got the mix back, I was like, oh God, because I wasn't crazy keen on that part, but then it sat with me for a while, and I was like, I really actually like it. Like it's one of those things where it lives with you for a little while, and then it just is. It's a part of the song. It exists. And that came from, we'd tracked a lot of the stuff in Addiction Studios with David Kalmusky, who mixed the record, and we went back to Dave's studio again in his house in Nashville. And he has a little vocal booth there, and I was in the vocal booth, and I was there with like Jesse, Dave's engineer, who's one of the most amazing musical people I've met. He's such a fun guy as well. But yeah, Jesse was there, and we were all sat in the studio. And Dave's, he's saying like, it needs to go somewhere, and he should just go somewhere a bit wild. He's like kind of like, I'm peering through the glass at him, and he's like, just do something completely different to what you've done so far in the song. And then that's just the first kind of thing that I did. I don't know. It just happened. It was one of the things where I was like, okay, and I picked the end of the second verse lyrics and just like rephrased them in a weird and wacky way, just to sort of like pull the song into a different space. Um, and yeah, that ended up becoming the bridge.
Gotcha. It's a great story. So let's talk about Amelia, because when I watched the video last week, it first of all it's wonderfully done, and I want to know, where was it shot, because it's just beautiful. And
Yeah.
then, what is the name of the woman who was in the video, and how did she come about in making this?
Yeah, so Amelia's a great song. I really like it.
It is.
Thank you. Yeah, the filming for that was wild. So I really, really when I first heard the song, I really envisioned an Italian town and me on a Vespa riding around this Italian village, like all shot like it's on sort of Super 8 film or something like that. And yeah, I could like envision me and like I don't know some lady on the back of the Vespa and we're riding around this village. It's just very like light and colorful, the song. So I really wanted to mirror that in the imagery. And funnily enough, it's shot in Wales, which you wouldn't think, but it's shot in Portmarion, which is a Welsh village that this guy ages ago just decided to completely remodel and design it around an Italian village. He took loads of stuff from World War II when like the Blitz happened. So there's all of this amazing architecture that had been taken up from London and rebuilt in this village. And it was I think like an ode to his wife or something like that. There was this amazing man called Myreg, who was our sort of guide when we were filming all of that, and he walked us through the whole like history of the place. And the guy had this amazing sort of, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like a garden filled with all these different tropical, which in Wales it's known for being grey, rainy, and not very nice, but like this village is just a gem. It's a complete and utter gem. I mean, a lot of Wales is a gem. I feel like everyone who's from Wales says that it's bad, so that other people don't come and ruin how amazing Wales is. Because it's definitely it's very beautiful and pretty, and like there are so many hidden gems and beautiful things to go and see, and no one really knows about them. So yeah, Port Marion is definitely one of those gems. And yeah, the filming of the video was really fun. It was shot by BD Films, this guy from Bristol, who's really phenomenal. He's great. So it was a very small crew. It was just like me, a camera guy, a couple of my mates were doing like a mate of mine took the artwork, the Amelia artwork on his camera while we were shooting. His name's Seb. He's great. Seb Lewis. He's an amazing friend of mine. Yeah, just like a really, really great experience. And yeah, the actress who's playing like Amelia, yeah, I don't know, I can't really remember how that came about. I was like really wanted someone who to me envisioned like the lyrics of the song. So like she goes where the wind blows, very bohemian, very sort of ethereal bohemian looking person, and she just so happened to sort of fit that sort of visual that I was seeing in my head. And yeah, straight away, me and her got on insanely well. She's great. She's brilliant. I'm pretty sure her like this is Amelia's 2020 I think, or 2021. So this is like years back. So I can't remember her name off by heart, but it's on the Amelia credits on YouTube and stuff like that. So, but she was incredible, phenomenal dancer, phenomenal performer and actress. And yeah, the shoot was done in the space of 2 days, and then a bunch of the drone footage got corrupted, so we had to go back and film again for another 2 days. So it was like 4 days altogether, and it was color graded by myself actually, because I think that visual of the colors popping in this sort of Italian village, I really wanted all of the saturation of the video to be, pop color. But yeah, so yeah, that was Amelia.
Well, I was going to talk about Hearts now, but you kind of already talked about a little bit about Wales, because I wanted to talk about your hometown. So I think that's a good segue. So Ferndale, Wales. I looked at it on the map. You're kind of not too far from the coast, correct?
Yeah, maybe about like an hour. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. For an American like myself and for probably most of our audience, sell me on Ferndale. Like if you were a real estate agent, what's great about Ferndale and what's great about Wales?
The views. It's definitely, if I was in a suit walking around some couple about to buy a house, I'd be like, just look at the views. Like that definitely be the go to. I'd probably say I would struggle to sell a house in winter here if I was still trying to sell anyone on living here. It's definitely as far as summer months go, and also spring. It's beautiful. The sun is out and the sky is blue. Yeah, I'm close to Brecon here, the Brecon Beacons, which is a very very beautiful area of Wales. Um, and it's very rural, very quiet, which especially if you're recording music is great because there's no noise. But yeah, so it's very pretty, it's very green. There's a lot to do if you know what to do. I feel like as a kid, one of the reasons why I got into music was because I didn't have a car, I couldn't drive, I was too young and stuff like that. So you sort of left to your own devices because, like I said, it's very rural. So you sort of have to pick up something. And before music, it was skateboarding, and I had an accident, and then it became sort of skateboarding. I became music then after skateboarding. But yeah, definitely the views, the people as well. The people here in Wales, they're really welcoming, really lovely, and yeah, it's definitely the beaches. The beaches here in Wales are some of the best in like that I've ever seen, and I've been to quite a few places, and yeah, there's a beach called Barafundle Bay which is phenomenal. There's like a bunch. There's like Ogmore, and yeah, some incredible beaches, some incredible scenery. But it's very scenic and it's very rural, and the people here are really welcoming.
It's awesome. So I when I was talking to the Silver Lines yesterday, because they're from the UK, they kind of spoke kind of not down, but like kind of they do much better outside of the UK with regards to like welcoming like indie bands and up and coming bands, and they kind of said there's a lack of venues in London, particularly for like, up and coming bands to be able to really kind of thrive. Did you kind of encounter that or have you encountered that?
Not to completely go against their word, but I think like it depends where you want to gig in London. Like I've gigged London loads of times, and I could probably gig twice a night, every night. Obviously, you can't do that with promoters being like you have to book. I think that's probably what they're talking about. There's loads of venues. There's an like uncountable amount of you probably could count them, but there's loads and loads and loads and loads of venues in London. The problem is like if you're booking through a promoter or even just yourself, you can't put on too many shows one after another because then like one promoter might get angry because it's like usually there's a clause with gigging in London here in the UK where it's like you're not allowed to put a show on a month either side. So that promoter then like maximizes their income on the show, which I understand. I get it. And the main workaround for that is just be the promoter, hire the venue, like pay up for the venue costs up front, and then promote your own event. And a couple other people that I've noticed have been doing this thing where they basically put an ad out on their social media, just being like, you know, doing a bedroom tour where it's like people get you to come and sing in their front room. I think like years ago Ed Sheeran did that. Loads of other big artists do that, and Edie Benz is recently doing that. And she's great, and I really love her music. And she's also from Wales, and I just noticed that she was going and doing that too. So I think there's a lot of workarounds. I think when it comes to like audience, I suppose. I think audience will find your music. I don't think that like gigging in London makes sense if your audience aren't from London, kind of thing. Like only gig the places where you see that there are people really caring about your music. But I definitely understand. Like I feel, I agree with the like when I go to America, you stand out because we're not from America. You know what I mean? Like we're foreign. And it like when I did the guitar pull in Nashville when I was recording the album, uh, weirdly enough the venue was like a sports bar, so everyone's staring at the screens. But as soon as I opened my mouth and started singing, everyone's head snapped, And I think it's just because like my voice is so unique, and when I talk, it's British. They're like, "Oh, who's this random British guy in our local sports venue?" You know what I mean? And I feel like that kind of that doesn't happen if every if I did that in a sports bar here, no one's really. I mean, maybe because my voice is unique, but like I don't think that it's because I'm British. Like they're so used to that. So I think it really depends. Yeah, it really depends on the community and the venues that you're playing and stuff like that. But the response that I've always had has been positive and welcoming.
Yeah, that is interesting that you said that. And I agree. Atmosphere is everything. But let's get to the other song that I wanted to talk about, Hearts. And this is just a great story because I thought it might have been Greta because that's the piano you named, but you said it is Mrs. Mills. So let's talk about the song first, and then we'll get into the story behind Mrs. Mills.
Yeah. So yeah, Hearts. That one was written in a Soho hotel room. So Dave was traveling over. I think he was working on the musical Time Traveler's Wife with Joss Stone. So he'd traveled over, and I basically was like, while you're here, I was kind of stuck to his leg. I don't know if he wanted me to be stuck to his leg, but I ended up sort of like injecting myself into a few situations. I was like sleeping on the floor of like a hotel room of one of the people that he was working with at the time, and yeah, we ended up like he said to me, he was like, come over, we'll write a song together, bring your guitar. So I ended up sort of like um, yeah, ended up. Oh no, that was a different time that was when we were mastering the album at Abbey Road. But yeah, that time he'd actually I think he'd had traveled. Yeah, he hadn't traveled down for the Time Traveler's Wife thing yet. I think he was just in the UK because lockdown had just ended, sort of thing. So he was just come to the UK, and yeah, I traveled up. Slept on my then manager's couch and woke up and headed to Strong Rooms, a studio in Shoreditch, London. And we were there sort of like writing, we were recording, we'd written the night before. So yeah, I was staying in on my then manager's couch, but I'd written it in Dave's hotel room the night before. God, yeah, so long ago now. So all coming back to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we ended up like writing. We wrote that. We sat down. We had some Space Invaders, which are these like British, like sherbet snacks that you have as children. And Dave, Dave's like I think at that time he was like 69 years old. So we were both, or maybe he was 68 years old. So we like sat down having these like children's sweets in his hotel room, and we were just having a laugh, playing some chords, having a bit of a jam. We'd written one song that didn't make the cut to the album, and then eventually, we finished that one, and we did that in like the space of maybe 30 minutes, an hour, and then we were like, okay, let's do another one. We've still got time, and then that was then Hearts, and Dave was sat there with his guitar, and he starts strumming these chords for Hearts, and yeah, I was sat across from him, and the song again, it sort of came out quite naturally. He does it. Dave is a very good songwriter. He's in the Songwriting Hall of Fame, so he sort of like has. And I think I do this whenever I co-write or do any sort of writing. You sort of have a little therapy session where it's like, oh, what do you want to say? What are you feeling? What's sort of going on at the moment? And me and him both sort of landed on this idea of Hearts being this sort of um, relative self-discovery mixed with sort of like a yearning and love and this sort of larger than life heartbreak, sort of whether it's a relationship or a loss of a loved one, or it should just be this huge, like that's what breaks our hearts, like that's what makes us sad. And that's where the song was sort of then born. But it was created in a Soho hotel room, and then the next day we recorded a bunch of the parts that ended up making the cut. Like there's backing vocals that were done in this studio in Shoreditch called Strong Rooms, and like the piano I think made the cut as well. And my vocal take was done then as well, so it wasn't done in Nashville. It was done like 2 years or a year prior. in London.
And then the story behind Mrs. Mills.
Yes, so coming to filming the music videos, that was amazing. Dave, I was supposed to be filming the video for Hearts. It was going to be me sort of like pulling this piano up a hill, up a slag heap, which is like what they used here in Wales. They would basically like, it's known for, it's like a mining, lots of mining communities, and they would take all the rubble and they'd put it on top of hills, so on top of mountains. So I was going to be pulling up this piano all the way up this hill, and then I'd get to the top and it'd be this epic, sort of thing with like drone shots and all sorts of stuff. And then that video, unfortunately, the videographer pulled out 2 days before we were supposed to film, which was like, okay, we'd been like working on this idea for like a month. And he pulled out, and then the release of the album had sort of already started at that point. So it was like a sort of scramble to think of a new idea, and Dave, with his great ideas, just said like Abbey Road. We're doing Abbey Road. So like, the week after, I think it was the same day that I was meant to be filming. And we were I was in London, heading to Abbey Road. They'd booked Studio 2, which is like the most famous room at Abbey Road, and he'd hired out the Mrs. Mills piano, which is like the famous Beatles piano. And Dave's a huge Beatles fan, and I love I think any songwriter, or maybe there are songwriters out there who don't like the Beatles, but to me their music is like a staple of even my childhood, and younger formative years as a songwriter would be like Beatles and rock. And I went through like the Beatles, and then went through rock, and then went through blues. I did the whole span of that. And then I went into jazz, and then I got into folk, which is I sort of fell into folk for a long time. But yeah, Mrs. Mills. So we were sat in, I was sat in Abbey Road Studio 2, playing the Mrs. Mills piano with a like 5-man crew, filming me play the song live, basically. And then that was the video. So just me in Abbey Road performing the song, which is great. I loved it. The outfit's great as well. And it's just it was so, I don't know. That again came naturally, and I think the video is really good. And it's so weird because like some of the other videos would be like a month of planning and maybe a bit of a storyboard and stuff like that, and this one was literally just go there and play, which is like what I'm so used to. I'm definitely a performer through and through, and I think when you put an instrument in front of me, it elevates my own emotion to a whole new level.
Yeah. Well, your style is definitely unique, and I'm very jealous because I do not have that style. The outfits that you wore for the night, the Focus Over Wales, I mean, fantastic, like canary yellow or like that golden yellow. So I want to ask, do you feel like your music influences your style, or does your style influence your music?
It's funny you say that. I think vision influences both. So like when I was shooting Amelia, the outfit for that was a double-breasted Italian suit because I wanted it to be in Italy, sort of thing. And I picked that outfit because that's what I envisioned me. It was quite weird. I was between picking a suit or something a bit more like unique, and then ended up going with suit. And then I think with the Persona album, definitely both happened at the same time. I was just about to track the album, and Dave was basically like, what you've got these amazing songs that you've written, and they're at the moment sort of small folk songs, because like that's the style of writing that I basically write in. And I really love Passenger. Their work's great, and I really love intricate rhyme schemes, which you do find a lot in folk. So I write in this sort of folk style, but then what me and Dave sat down and sort of discussed was like, how do we take these small, heartfelt, really meaningful folk songs and build them up to be this larger than life, like bigger than what they could be, just me and a guitar and that's it, sort of thing. And that's where sort of then the idea and the vision for the outfits came about as well. So I feel like it's usually, I don't think one thing impacts the other. I think from the outset, I've always had, or like I've always tried to have like a straight line vision, and then that means that things can sort of marry up and become one and a whole piece. And yeah, like the outfits, and also I think like my style changes. It also depends what I'm doing. If I'm going hiking, I'm definitely not going to try and wear like 6-inch heels or something. But I've definitely, for the shooting of Dancing Around the Morning Sun video, I have been wearing I think I was like 4-inch heels in the middle of a forest, trying to like run through a forest in heels filming, which is crazy. But yeah, like I think like it's usually the vision of the song uh, it's all up here. That's the only thing I can really say is like I see it and then it happens, and I think Dave's the same. He sees it being a certain way, and until it's at that point, then it's not right.
Yeah. Have you thought about doing any songs as a duet with someone else?
I have. Funny enough, I worked with years ago when I played M for Montreal. It was the first time I managed to meet her in person. But years and years ago, maybe 2016, I used to co-write. I used to write songs with a Canadian girl called Leah, and she was phenomenal. And this was when I was kind of going through my jazz phase. So a lot of the songs that me and her wrote had this sort of like jazz folk twinge to them. It was very interesting. But I'd sing with her. So I've done duos with people. There's an artist here in Wales called Mari Matthias, and she's got a phenomenal voice. And I've done a couple things for the BBC Live with her, and I've co-wrote a small EP with her years ago. I don't really know what's going on with that, but like I've definitely, I would love to do more duets, and I'd love for them to be larger than life duets. Definitely would love to do more like duet stuff.
So, speaking of new music, what do we have to expect from now until the end of the year that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, there's no solid plans. Though I say that I'm playing loads of like shows and festivals. I've got I've got a gig that I'm playing on the 25th of April in Club Bach, which is a brilliant venue in Cardiff. So that's happening. I'm also playing Focus Wales as well. That's in May, and then on top of that, I'm playing In It Together Festival, which is an insane lineup. So I'm really excited to play that. And then music-wise, I mean, I can tell you this probably. I've been demoing. So when I worked on the last album, Persona, I had 80 songs. So there was about 80 songs that I demoed up, and then picked 12 of the best, or picked. I think at the time it's quite a funny story. I was working on the album. It was a Sunday, and Dave said, "I want a 12-track album from you by Thursday." And I was like, "Okay, cool, I can do it." So I did it. I started tracking all the stuff here in this bedroom in the post office. I hired some session players that are friends of mine to come up, and we did all the string lines, like the string lines that you hear on Hearts and stuff like that, are all from this room, and started working on the album. So I had 12 songs, but I already had 80s. But I'd picked with Dave at the time, we'd picked 12 of the bunch. And then I think 3 of those got binned when I went to Nashville and replaced with songs that then I'd written in Nashville. So I was only in Nashville for about a week, but did another 3 songs just in the space of a week while I was there. And they ended up all making the cut to the album. But yeah, speaking of new material, it's the same sort of situation. So I still have all of that unreleased material from way back then. And then since recording the album, it took, I think, 2 years to come out. So there's 2 years worth of writing material that I've got that's just sat there. So I know that there's at least maybe like 120 songs. And on top of that, I'm continuing to write. So I've demoed up at least 20 at the moment of that 120. So this is quite a lot of work for me to do. But I love it. I absolutely adore the recording process of making music. So I'm really excited to dive in and sort of work more on these demos. And then I'll be heading into a studio sort of this, early this year, and yeah, getting the next releases together for end of this year and early next year. So yeah, you
Well,
got new music to look forward to.
that is exciting to hear for myself and for your fans. This has been great. I appreciate you doing this so much. It's crazy, like you said, or like we said, it's been a month since South by. It just seems like last week.
Yeah.
So that's crazy. But best of luck to you. And yeah, we can't wait to get you over to the States again for a proper tour. So we don't have
Oh
to come to
yes.
Europe.
Yeah, yes, please. I mean, I might be, fingers crossed. The Rob guy is, I think, probably working something out in LA, so I might be coming to LA. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I'd absolutely love to play across America. Everyone that I meet there is just so lovely. So yeah, definitely one day soon.
Well, I think this country needs some more happier music. So you would be a welcome treat. So one final thing I want to know about, because you spoke about this song by Young Mister, "Everything in Its Place." Is that what it's called?
Yeah, everything has its place. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Everything in
yeah.
Its Place. I listened to it as well, just because I was curious. What does that song mean to you?
To me, this is one of the most perfect love songs. Like it sets up every, to me at least, it sets up every lyric that is like a punchline. Like the end of each verse is almost like a punchline, and then all of the other lyrics before it are like the setup to the joke. But the joke is that the person is just madly in love. Like they realize that there is someone out there for them, that is their other half. Yeah, and until they, like some of the lyrics are. I haven't listened to it in a while. Actually, I've been like on a binge of new music, but as sure as the rain goes, sure as a ring goes with a hand, the stars with the moon, as sure as the ocean pairs well with the sand, I go with you, which is like perfect. Like that's a perfect songwriting. So yeah, I think like to me it's a flipping brilliant love song. Yeah, that's what it that's the emotion that it evokes. I think for me is just love, pure love.
Yeah. Well, I think that you sound a lot like Vance Joy and Neil Simon, as much as I feel like that Star-Crossed Lovers sounds like, an Elton John or Meatloaf song. Have you ever gotten Vance Joy comparison before, like just vocally wise?
I haven't actually. That might be the first. I've had a couple. I had a really big compliment on another podcast, a Welsh podcast, that some guy came to a show, and he ended up. I didn't know that he was from a podcast or anything. And I was getting all these texts come through and be like, "Ah, you were on my favorite podcast while I was running," and I was like, "What?" And then I listened to it, and the guy compared me to Jeff Buckley vocally,
Oh,
which I thought, that's a big compliment because I really like Jeff Buckley. So, listening to that and hearing, hearing him say that was quite cool. But yeah, yeah, Vance Joy. I really like Vance Joy's stuff, and it's quite funny. I went through like a ukulele phase. Um, I've always played guitar as my main instrument, but a couple of years back I got gifted a ukulele, and I went definitely through a phase of like writing more songs on ukulele. Like Castaway was originally written on ukulele, so yeah, I can sort of feel the vibe of that rubbing off a little bit here and there, maybe. So yeah, I understand that.
good stuff. Well, I'm glad you're not offended by that one.
Yeah, no, no, no. I mean, brilliant artist. So yeah, I'm definitely not offended.
Yeah. Well, good stuff. Well, again, best of luck to you. Make sure you check out Otto Aday on his website. Is it just ottoaday.com?
Yep,
Yeah.
simple.
Perfect, perfect. Everybody, just make sure, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us. That helps artists like Otto. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. don't just wear RAR. And as always, I've been Dogg. You've been great. This is the Music Lab podcast.